Ready? It's about to happen. And we're recording. It's happening. You got a little nose blow in. That was smart right before. I grew up in the Midwest and I'm always having to blow my nose all the time. I feel like it was like a childhood of ragweed. Jeffrey Sparr, it is so wonderful to talk to you. I knew from the moment I met you that you were a special person that I wanted to get to know more. And those are the kinds of people I invite to be on the Beautiful Voyager podcast. So welcome, Jeffrey Sparr.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you've had a really interesting journey, and I was immediately taken with your tennis background because I was a tennis player as well, as I mentioned to you. I come from a tennis family, and I have a theory that tennis attracts some of us, like maybe perfectionists. I don't know. There's something about tennis, like singularity of it. But can you tell a little bit about your story as a young tennis player and its intersection with mental health in your life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wonder myself because my illness manifested itself at Ohio State where I played, tennis. So you often look back and wonder, what role that might have had and when the onset of it might have been. And I think as athletes, we're always, kind of superstitious and, not stepping on the lines or, I got ranked, sounds ridiculous. I got ranked number 3 in New England when I was in the 12s, right? And I appealed because I thought I should be number 2 and I never liked number 3 from then. I mean, think about how ridiculous that is. So, you just don't know, but I think, it was until college where it really started to bother me. But I can say that a lot of my ex-teammates say that who knew that I'd be better with a paintbrush than a racket, and I try to take that as a compliment,
When you were a kid, you grew up in Rhode Island, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you growing up, you did you consider yourself creative?
No, I mean, again, my story is very improbable, right? Because I didn't do anything that, there is no basis for what the outcome was here. I mean, I was a tennis player, I went to prep school and, was recruited, went to Ohio State, and I was 20 years old, living up my dream of, playing, Division I sports and had the world, right where I wanted to, but, unbeknownst to me, I was losing my mind. My mind was being overtaken by these, terrible, obtrusive thoughts, and I didn't know what was going on. I was, scared and and lonely, and no one to talk to. I mean, I couldn't talk to my teammates; they think I was nuts. Couldn't talk to my coach; he'd probably bench me.
I mean, it's also very confusing, isn't it, Jeffrey? Like,
yeah,
would you even have a language to share it? It's like, what?
I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't call my parents. They worried enough as parents. And mid 1980s, even in a place like Ohio State, there were no mental health services, available. So, I did, I think what any good athlete would do, right? I sucked it up and got worse.
Yeah.
Which is not a great formula to get better. So, but I came back, and in my early 20s, I finally got to the point, literally, I thought I was going crazy, and found the courage somehow to find my way to a psychiatric hospital. And I was diagnosed with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And, for the last 30 some odd years of my life, I fight a debilitating illness that impacts me every day, even as I talk to you today. But proud to be on a show like this. And, I share my story in a celebratory way, because I really have always considered myself one of the lucky ones. I got diagnosed, and with that, an opportunity to get better.
Yeah, I feel like the diagnosis moment. I mean, how did you feel actually when you were given your diagnosis? What did that do for you?
Relieved. Thank goodness I'm not crazy. There's something wrong with me. And then that's where the athlete part of me probably kicked in. It's like, okay, I got something. What do I got to do? What's the training regimen? How do we get better? And unfortunately, as we all know, there's no magic potion or magic pill, and but through medication and exposure therapy and a loving family, I've had a wonderful life, 3 beautiful kids, beautiful wife. It all looks good on the outside, but fighting a very, difficult illness. The rest of my story, as you know, you can't make up. That's where the art and the creativity, part of it, people, literally, I mean, coming home one day and somebody says to me that, calls me and says, Jeff, you ever paint before? I said, I never painted a day in my life, but when you're desperate, you'll try anything.
Anything.
So,
And who,
so
and so just the overview is you're this like amazing tennis player as a kid. You end up going to Division I tennis. It gets worse and worse, but you just keep playing, and were you having intrusive thoughts even as a kid? Like, was it always there, or did it really come on in college?
Yeah, I mean, it really, look, the way the illness, I mean, a lot of these illnesses manifest themselves in those kind of teenage years, and, combine that with pressure and a lot of other things. I don't think that's uncommon, for me, a certain event, spurred it on. And I don't think that's uncommon either. A lot of these things are traced to, some type of event. As we all know, it could be anything. But that was the beginning of the really, difficult, period. Did I have aspects of it, earlier in my life? I'm sure I did.
Yeah. And so going to the psychiatric, what is it called? Like psychiatric ward? What's the name of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I fortunately I found my way to a, which ironically turned out to be one of the top OCD doctors in the world. And
oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, ironically, and I've been a huge advocate of my health and
oh my God,
progress.
And did he know immediately, like upon your first immediately? Okay.
Just textbook.
What relief.
Yeah, so it's exactly. So it was a relief, and now what do we have to do? But and I wish, I wish I had found creativity even sooner. But fortunately for me, it changed my life. And that phone call, I rerouted, went to an art supply store, picked up a bunch of supplies, came home, and I don't have my paintings jacket on today, but I'm the Forrest Gump of painting. Basically, I never stopped. And it literally, creativity changed the course of my life, and it gave me a sense of control that I think all mental illnesses rob you of. And it was that blank canvas was invigorating to my soul. And
what was the first thing? First of all, who told you should paint? Was it the same man?
Yeah, just a friend of mine. Just
a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that doctor. It wasn't that like world famous doctor.
No,
okay.
No.
And how did was this friend a painter? Like, what made them think like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. She was a painter, and why not? So I tried it. And
what do you remember what your first painting was?
Yeah, I did a landscape that, was horrific, but who cared?
Yeah.
But very quickly, I found, relief in doing it, and a little peace of mind. And I think I was probably so desperate for in my life. And then as I went, for whatever set of circumstances, people connected to my artwork, and I was good at it, which is a shock, because I had, still have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And I was self-trained, and I guess an advantage of not knowing what I was doing. But, I developed kind of my own whimsical style, and, with sense of color and titles. And I just painted, what I liked. And, all my characters, if you ever seen in my art, are faceless. And people assume that, it was the face of mental illness, or, of community, or all this deep stuff. And the truth of the matter was, I just couldn't draw a face. So that kind of became my signature to this day. And next thing you know, people, especially at that time, right? Most artists won't let you into what they're thinking. And, I try to communicate what I couldn't words with my illness. I paint things like Stop the Madness, how I felt, and Half Daddy, depicting, what it felt like when I was with my children, to be half there. And I think people appreciated the honesty and the insight. And, that led to this ridiculous career as an artist. People started, collecting my stuff. And next thing you know, it's in restaurants, it's in a casino. Next thing you know, it's in the Grammys, Music Cares. And for the most part, I gave my art away to people. I was a CEO of a company. I mean, I was embarrassed to sell my art. And my cousin, Matt Kaplan, is the co-founder of our foundation. He had a small little marketing company, and he offered to be my agent. because he told me that giving away my art for free wasn't great for my career.
Smart guy,
So
watching out for you.
Yeah, he was not bashful. He had a one-man show for me. Again, it's ridiculous. Like I'm on Broadway, right? And has the show for me and comes up to me in the night. He's all excited. He says, "You're not going to believe this, Jeff." He says, "Sold $16,000 of art tonight." He said, "What do you want to do with the money?" And I'm not one of those kumbaya, deep, guys, and but I had that moment that literally, that epiphany that changed my life. I looked at Matt and I said, I paint. I said, it makes me feel good. Maybe it'll help somebody else. And 2 weeks later, I showed up on a children's psychiatric unit of a hospital that not only was I a patient, but I was a board member. And I remember like yesterday walking through that hospital lobby with a bag over my shoulders, looked like a cross between a robber and Santa Claus. No clue what I was doing. And I got on the unit with a bunch of young children that had OCD and other, mental health, challenges. And I panicked. I had young kids at the time, and, I was overwhelmed. I had no qualifications. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't an art therapist. I wasn't.
You did have some important qualifications, though.
Well,
you understood.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I went to Plan B. Plan B was just tell them my story and, try to, show them how creativity had given me some peace of mind and some hope. And, to this day, I tell people I stumbled on this. I had no idea. I saw very quickly the impact it was having on the children, their parents, the docs, the observers. It was like an awakening. It's like, what is going on here? And, I knew I had stumbled on something that was part, motivational, inspirational. You can do it all wrapped into this message of hope.
And how long ago was that? That was like 12? 15?
Yeah, this is probably 14 years ago. So
and this was before mental health was trendy. Now it's trendy. It wasn't trendy back then.
No, there was no one was paying attention to it. But my interest always was, and honored to be on this show with you, and the work that you guys do, and using creativity to bring it to so many people. But this is 14 years ago, right? My mantra has never changed. Creativity can be life-changing. I was living proof. Unfortunately, it's the first thing taken away, basically in every budget, every community. So
yeah,
I might not be the smartest guy in the world, but I was smart enough to realize that you can have the best thing, and if you can't get it to people, you can't help them. So the dream always was to develop something that was accessible and affordable, with expressive arts of all kind, and actually get it to people. And, no different than, Johnson & Johnson's one of our big partners of our foundation. And, I've worked closely with them over the last couple of years and watched what they're doing with the vaccine, with the rest of the world. And I tell them, we've got a vaccine for the peace of mind.
I love that. And so back then you went to the kids, you had sort of your first workshop, and then you started doing more and more workshops, right? And was it always you, or did you start teaching other people how to do these workshops as well?
Yeah, no, I just, my cousin Matt went with me. My wife used to go with me, and it was pretty organic, and literally.
I love it. Very grassroots.
We started there, and, went to high schools and hospitals and behavioral health units and prisons and boys and girls, YMCAs, anywhere they wouldn't kick me out.
And can you tell me a little bit about like what you saw? Like, how did people just what were some of the patterns you saw and how people behaved around this?
Yeah, the first thing was, it was heartbreaking to go into a lot of these communities, and there was no arts, or anything, which was just horrible, and so that was my first, kind of wow. And then the other thing, from the beginning, it's always been to this day, it's a sense of wonder, of just the impact it has, and just the simple act of creating a safe space and just sharing your story and giving people an opportunity to express themselves in whatever way and share, and the magic that happens was and it was the same no matter where I went, no matter where I did it. Always a little bit of a different twist. Didn't matter. The outcome was exactly the same.
And can you tell us what that outcome was? Like, what does it? Yeah. Can you give an example or two?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, one of the first classes I did, I had a young boy um, who, when I went in, his head was down, and yeah, I didn't know what to do. Right, I'm doing the class, and next thing you know, his head is keeps coming up and keeps coming up, and by the end of the class, this kid is engaged, and he's painting with me. And it literally was like an awakening. I think everybody there was probably crying because no one knew what was happening, and as if that wasn't, emotional enough. I'll never forget, he, because I used to tell the kids I sold my art because I was proud, and I said, if I can do it, you can do it. So this kid, when he was done, he wanted to me to sell it, and half of it go back to helping kids like him.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so, and I could tell you 100 stories, exactly, the same, and whether it's children, adults, and others, adults on units that looked at me, and I could have been them, and trying to offer up some hope, to them. So it was powerful.
And how much of your time did you become full time in this? Like, how did your journey work with?
Yeah, it's been a steady process. Today, I still have a company, but I have a partner that fortunately runs that for me, and this is I've cast my lot, in this, and over 14 years, more and more has gone into this, and somebody said to me, you'd have to be crazy to do what I've done over the last 14 years, and then I say, well, I am crazy, and I am doing it. But
It's
I've always
amazing.
tried to add a little laughter to it. It's a great way to go after a very tough subject.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite coping mechanism. What are some of your dream? I mean, you've got a lot going on. It's like growing and growing the
Yeah.
PeaceLove Foundation. What are some of your dreams at this stage, and sort of like what does the future hold?
Yeah, look, I always dreamt big. The problem was big, right? I've always considered, mental health and the stigma around it, and making resources available, maybe one of those last great social injustices that we had to tackle as a society and a world. And, my answer, for the reason it being difficult, has always been the same: invisible, misunderstood. And you can't talk about. It's a pretty tough combination to go after. So my dream was always to get it to the masses and help people. So, right now, to see, where we are with our, expressive arts programming, and, making it available, not just live and in person to people, but the development of, on demand and virtual platforms to be able to truly spread it and make it available to millions of people around the world. It's almost like, after all these years of dreaming, it's almost like, I feel like it's a life of fiction that's becoming nonfiction in some ways, to see some of these.
That's awesome.
So
It's amazing.
It's wonderful, and with that, great gratitude and appreciation for so many people that have believed, and that something like this, was possible, and the world has caught up to us. 14 years ago, this wasn't being talked about, but clearly we have a moment in time right now where it's unfortunate, as you and I have talked about, that it took a pandemic
I know.
to shed light on the epidemic. But I think, as a society, I think we're finally grasping the impact that it has, and with that, the opportunity to look at maybe some non-traditional, non-clinical, type things that we can truly, scale and get to people. So.
Can you tell us anything about the game that you're working on? Or is that like secret still and to come?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been very fortunate to attract, some of the leading minds, and now leading companies that believe in our work. And it was announced a couple of months ago, in conjunction with Hasbro and AWS and Amazon. We're in the process of developing a mental health game that will come out to the world, that in both an analog and a digital platform, that truly will take the magic that is PeaceLove and what we've built, and make it available to so many people around the world.
That's so cool, by the way. I can't wait. I can't wait to explore it. You must be so excited about that. That's massive.
It's a wonderful moment and in time, and we want to take advantage of that to advance the work while everybody's listening.
Yeah, well, as soon as that game comes out, tell me and I'll share that so that people can find it.
You got it.
Tell me, what do you wish more people understood about OCD?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been that popular disease on movies and TV, right? And everybody thinks of it as, hand washing and,
Right.
checking. And I don't think that a lot of people realize, what the illness really is and the way it impacts people. The question I'm asked most often is, the hardest thing is to explain to people what it's like, right?
But everyone has a sense of intrusive thoughts, right? Tell us, how do you usually explain it?
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody has, but the difference, I'm sure, you've had this. Well, yeah, I got OCD. No, you don't have OCD. Let me tell you what it would be like. It would be like, you're in O'Hare Airport and you're with your small child, and you lose attention for a while, and you're not paying attention, then you turn back around and your child is gone. I think there isn't anybody that can't understand the level of anxiety that panic you would have in that moment. Somebody that has what I have can have that same level of anxiety and panic over something that is completely ridiculous, and that it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. It happens to intelligent, articulate people, but it does have that same, sense of, desperation and urgency and anxiety. And, that can last sometimes for hours. It can last for days. It can last for weeks. And that's what it's like, to have this illness.
Mm-hmm. Does it help you to meet other people and talk about it? I mean, you've had so many years and you're sort of an elder statesman. I am an elder stateswoman in this world, but like, how does it help? Does it help to talk to people, or how? I don't know.
Always.
How does that? Yeah.
Always. I mean, I looking back, I wish I had, I went to group therapy and I started that very late. I wish I had done that earlier, just to listen to other people and realize, it's not you, it's the illness, and kind of put some perspective on it. But, given the work I do, look, I have a very forward-facing story and very public and very, very proud of that. And, so a day doesn't go by that, somebody, doesn't reach out to me, especially in this day and age, right? It's pretty remarkable, and share their struggle and story. And, I think that, sometimes in trying to help others and just listening, I'm helping myself as well. Trying to.
Yeah, that was actually one of my assumptions. And that was also going to be a question, which is, do you feel like, I do the Beautiful Voyager for the same reason. Do you feel like doing this work is, I don't know, it's a form of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. It's a great question. My doctor said to me one day, how ironic the rise of this movement has been in parallel to the improvement of my health. Because the truth of the matter is, for someone that has the Doubter's disease and OCD, basically everything that's difficult for my illness, anxiety, ambiguity, asking people for things, pressure, lack of sleep, traveling, you name it, every single thing that is difficult for my health, I do from the minute I wake up all day.
Wow.
So he says, you're the most overexposed patient I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So in some ways, how ironic that my own health has been challenged and I think gotten better in many ways, having to do the work,
Does it get easier? I mean, I assume it gets easier, right? Look at you right now. We're having this conversation. This probably would have been hard to imagine 20 years ago. I don't know.
I got you faked out, No, I mean, look, the sharing has never been, never
the challenge.
I'm proud of that, and that's the athlete part of me, right? Like, I can be better than you even with this thing. I think the thing that is difficult, and that is courageous. I think it's courageous to take on demons that impact you, for something that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I'm proud of, because I've always thought with the work that I'm doing, it's bigger than me, and the opportunity to help so many people. So, with that is a certain amount of, pride and satisfaction and peace of mind that hopefully will help other people.
It also helps that it's a family affair. I mean, when I met you, you had your cousin right next to you, right? I mean, this is like you've built this in your community and your foundation.
Yeah.
And then from that very strong base, sending it out into the world. So that's really cool too, I think.
Yeah. I love that you said family business, because I was telling someone the other day, I said, I'm involved in the largest family business in the world, mental health. I said, because it involves every single family.
That's right. That's right.
But to your point,
that's true.
Super proud of, what do they say? You can't reverse engineer authenticity, and
I love that.
And I think that, our organic and kind of authentic growth is something that I think, people respect and connect with. This wasn't.
I'm writing down that line. You can't reverse engineer. I can't tell you how many times people are like, how do I do exactly what you do? And I just want to say, well, you're not going to do what I do. You're going to do what you do. I mean, yeah.
Just be your authentic self, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And people can read through that, and, that's what they relate to, especially, if nothing else, this pandemic, it's been kind of a reset, and I hope one of the silver linings is not just the advancement of, organizations like ours that can help people, but, maybe a little bit more of a compassion, empathetic world. People are struggling, and, maybe this is reset it a little bit.
One question I sometimes ask on the podcast is there something that you feel like is not covered enough, or that you'd want to share that you're not often asked about? Does that exist for you?
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, if you had asked me that question, 3 years ago, before I spoke at Davos at the World Economic Forum, I would have said, hey, when I was yelling and screaming at world leaders to talk about this subject, but now that subject's being talked about. So at least we, so I can't say that, but, I don't think most people, I don't know. I don't think most people, know, what a struggle it is for me personally, because and it's ironic, right? My story is so public and I spend my time doing that, but yet, it's a very lonely battle and a lonely illness.
It is. It is.
And unfortunately, OCD, the nature of this illness, requires, wants you to seek assurance, and, and with that, you drag other people down, and it just takes you in a bad place. So sometimes the best thing to do is not to talk to anybody, and, you have to burden that yourself. So, sometimes I wonder, and even the people I'm closest to sometimes, whether they really understand. It's like, yeah, but I don't know, maybe that's a reason why, I always felt that for whatever the set of circumstances, maybe I was someone uniquely qualified, to articulate, kind of this message. And if it didn't look like that and sound like that, then maybe that wouldn't be the story, because it can happen to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's well put. It's almost like you had the personality to be able to do it, despite this thing that could have overshadowed your personality.
That's one of your words are dead on. And I always say, not despite, but because.
Okay.
This would have never happened. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting on your show today, and I wouldn't be doing some of the incredibly wonderful, things that I get to do. on a daily basis if I didn't have this dreaded illness. So, things happen for a reason. And, as you probably know and hear all the time, I mean, look, the big question everybody wants to know, the question I'm asked most is, hey, Jeff, what do I do? What can I do?
Right.
That's what everybody wants to know. Well, hey, what can I do?
Solve it. Can you solve it?
And obviously, look, creativity has always been my solution, but I tell people, look, you got to focus on the things they can control versus what they can't control.
Yeah.
I can't control my illness and, when it comes on and what it does. So I choose to focus on what I can control. And
it does seem like it's a day by day
by day. Before most people, my illness comes at me hard in the morning, which makes sense. I think that's the case for a lot of people. And, before most people wake up, I've worked out, I've meditated, I've done yoga, I've journaled.
Wow.
And it's not, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But it's a way for me to, as opposed to taking the first blow, it's a chance for me to take a shot at it and at least feel like I'm doing something.
What about as a parent? Like, how does this come up a lot in your parenting? Or, my daughter's 12 and we talk about anxiety, and I think we're still figuring it out, but it's just interesting as a parent. How do you think it's informed your parenting?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no greater privilege and honor than being a parent. It's my greatest joy in my life. And, as you asked the question, absolutely impacts my parenting. Look, my kids have grown up in a house where their dad talks very publicly about, his illness. And, if every home could, be like the Sparr house, we won't have this issue in the world. My kids don't even think twice about it. It's normal, right? Hey, we can talk about it, right?
Yeah. And it probably really helped them growing up. I mean, to just have that.
No doubt, and so I like to think that, with that, maybe some empathy and compassion, but also just, life isn't easy, and,
yeah.
Trying to teach your kids that, there's obstacles and there's, and you have to battle, back and do what you can do to, so it's what's life learn lessons,
What's your latest art project? This is my last question. I'm wondering, what are you working on, or is it just a constant process?
Oh, it's constant. I have so many things going at once. But that's the flurry that gives me the peace of mind. But I'm always working on many. I just finished one that was really exciting. That Johnson & Johnson is one of our big partners globally, and they had commissioned me to commemorate their response to COVID globally.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I did an original piece of art that was very large in form, and it was presented to the vice chair of J&J. And then there were 200 hand embellished limited editions given to every one of their world leaders.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, and what was neat about that was kind of a nice moment for me, because it's how I always visualized, my art being used, right? Here is a way of celebrating another, world event, and, in an artistic way where there was hope and promise, and trying to communicate that and leaving something that somebody might be able to look at and be inspired by. So I get a kick, out of that. The glasses I'm wearing is an ongoing project. We've got an incredible, partnership with iMart Express, which is a big, eyewear company around the country. And you see me wearing one of 30 of the first collection of glasses and accessories that is kind of inspired by my art and story. And, one of my dreams always was to turn consumers into supporters. And, people can wear these glasses and it changes the conversation, right? People can talk about it and maybe, hey, God, I like those glasses. Well, let me tell you about those glasses. And
I love it.
Maybe an entree to a tough subject.
It's fantastic. You're doing amazing work. I know that it can feel lonely, but you know that it's also making a huge difference. So I just thank you so much. And I can't wait to share more about your work and how people can get involved. And thank you so much for taking this time to talk to me.
Well, thank you. And thank you for shining a light on the work of people like myself and, making it, getting it out there so, we can help people. So,
I mean, the grassroots element really resonated with me. So I really appreciate, 14 years and just keep going with it. Keep going with it. It's so great. Thank you.
what they say, we might want to help millions of people, but you change lives one person at a time.
It's true. That's very true. Thank you. That's a wonderful way to end.